Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful stories ever told, the story of Yusuf. I mean, this is a narrative that has it all. Shocking betrayal, some absolutely crushing trials, and in the end, this incredible, magnificent triumph. We're going to look at it through the lens of a classic hero's journey and see how faith can guide a person through their absolute darkest moments and, well, right to their destiny. And the whole thing kicks off with this idea, this really powerful universal truth that hits you right in the gut. The deepest wounds, the ones that really sting, they often come from the people you're supposed to trust the most. This one sentence, it just sets the stage for everything that's about to happen. All right, so our journey begins right here, stage 1, a dream and a well. It starts with this divine call, a moment that singles out our hero. But it's followed, almost immediately, by a sudden, brutal fall into total darkness. So it all started with a dream. A young Yusuf has this absolutely incredible vision. He sees 11 stars, the sun, and the moon, all bowing down before him. Now his father, the Prophet Yusuf, he knew right away this wasn't just some random dream. No, this was a sign from God. This was a prophecy about Yusuf's great destiny. But that beautiful promise, it was met with a really dark reality. See, Yusuf's brothers were just consumed by jealousy. It grew and grew until it turned into pure hatred. They saw him as a threat, so they betrayed him. They took his coat and they threw him into a cold, empty well to die. And just like that, the promise of the dream turns into this nightmare of being completely and utterly abandoned. Okay, so after somehow surviving the well, Yusuf enters the next phase of his journey. We'll call it stage 2. The path of trials. This is where the challenges really shift. They go from being about pure physical survival to a deep, profound test of his character, of his faith. And it all starts with slavery and seduction. Yusuf's path from here is it's wild. He gets pulled out of the well by a passing caravan. You'd think, great, he's rescued. But no, it's not a rescue. It's a capture. He's carted off to Egypt and sold as a slave for just a few silver coins. And yet somehow, he ends up in the palace of a high-ranking minister, and it's there that he grows into this man of incredible wisdom and dignity. You see how every step, even the ones that looked like a total curse, was actually part of a much bigger plan. So in the relative comfort of this palace, a totally new and maybe even more dangerous trial appears. The minister's wife, she becomes obsessed with him, and one day she makes her move. She locks all the doors, and she tries to seduce him. I mean, this is it. This is the ultimate test of his character. But Yusuf's reaction, it's immediate. He turns to God for refuge. He chooses his faith over everything else. So just then, the minister walks in. His wife, without missing a beat, accuses Yusuf. But someone in the household, a very wise person, proposes this simple, brilliant test to figure out who's telling the truth. They say, look at his shirt. If it's torn from the front, he was the aggressor. But if it's torn from the back, it means he was trying to get away from her. And sure enough, his shirt was torn from the back. The proof was undeniable. So, his innocence is proven. Case closed, right? Wrong. So wrong. Yusuf's journey is about to take another incredibly dark turn. He's now entering his darkest hour, what you might call the inmost cave of his hero's journey. He becomes the innocent prisoner. The injustice of it is just staggering. You know, to protect the reputation of this powerful family, the truth, the proven truth, was completely ignored. And so Yusuf, a man they all knew was innocent, was thrown into a prison cell. And he wasn't there for a few days, or even a few months. He spent over 7 years in that prison. Just let that number sink in. More than 7 years of his life, just stolen, even though they knew he had done nothing wrong. Talk about a test of patience. While he was in prison, he actually interpreted the dreams of 2 other inmates. He asked the one who was going to be freed to please mention his case to the king. But when freedom comes, people forget. The man got out, and he completely forgot about Yusuf. He was left behind, all alone again, his patience being tested over and over and over. But after all those years of waiting in the dark, the turning point finally arrives. This next stage, it's the reward for all that patience. It's the beginning of his rise from the shadows. And it all starts with a dream. But this time, it's the king's dream. So the king of Egypt has this dream that has all of his advisors completely stumped. And all of a sudden, the cupbearer, the guy from prison, remembers. He remembers the forgotten prisoner who could interpret dreams. So Yusuf is summoned from his cell, and without any hesitation, he explains the vision. Egypt is going to have 7 years of incredible harvests, followed by 7 years of a devastating famine. And he didn't just interpret it, he gave them a whole plan to survive it. The king is blown away. He immediately orders Yusuf's release. But, get this, Yusuf refuses to leave. He demands that his name be cleared publicly once and for all. Think about that. He valued his honor and the truth more than his own freedom. And that act of integrity, well, it solidified everything. The king was so impressed, he didn't just free him, he put him in charge of the whole kingdom's treasury. And now we get to the story's powerful climax. Yusuf has risen to power, but there's one final test waiting for him. And this one isn't about patience or temptation. No, this is about something much, much harder. Forgiveness. This is the hero's return, where he has the chance to bring the elixir of mercy back to the very people who wronged him in the first place. So, the famine hits, just as Yusuf predicted. And his brothers travel to Egypt, desperate for food. They come and stand before him, begging for grain, and they have no clue who he is. The contrast is just, wow. They are weak, they're desperate, and he holds all the power. He could have taken his revenge right then and there, and honestly, who would have blamed him? But instead, after he reveals who he is, he speaks these words, and this is really the emotional peak of the entire story. No blame upon you today. With that one single act of grace, he chooses mercy over vengeance. He heals decades of pain, and he shatters the cycle of hatred that started all those years ago, right by that well. So when you look back at this incredible journey, it leaves us with these huge, timeless lessons. We saw how jealousy can literally destroy a family. We witnessed how patience, and I mean real patience, not just waiting around, but active faith when you feel hopeless, how that ultimately saves you. We learned that forgiveness has the power to elevate your entire spirit, to break cycles of pain. And maybe above all, we see that a divine plan is always, always at work, even when the path ahead is completely hidden from our view. You know, the story of Yusuf is just a masterclass in faith through adversity, and it leaves all of us with a final question for our own lives. When we find ourselves in our own personal well, when justice feels lost, and it seems like every single door is slammed shut, how do we find the strength to trust that there is a path forward, even when we can't see it?